there was a superabundance of kitsch. I've never seen so much, including this wonderful mirror shaped like a guitar hanging from one wall over the sideboard.
Fort Vallance, that was the nickname. And sometimes you deserved it because they had everything in there, guns, knives, you name it, you know?
I went to Fort Vallance on one occasion. After we'd had a victory in the Magistrates' Court, I went back with my instructing solicitor's managing clerk, who was a wonderful old character called Paddy Pakenham, who knew all the East End villains, and we had tea, and Violet gave us tea. And so I saw Fort Vallance. It was an extraordinary experience, because there was a conference going on in each room, over different matters, and Violet presiding at the bottom in her curlers, and she brought tea and entrees up to each conference room.
Well, she was a lovely woman. She's a typical mum, East End mum. I used to take my kids around there, and she would get them by their hand and take them in the kitchen, give them something to eat and make my sandwich, and she was a typical East End mother, and very kind and affectionate, and I mean she loved the twins like any mother. They can't see no harm in them, and obviously she must have worried about them and what they were doing, but I mean they never spoke in front of her. It was always in another room. Nothing was ever said in front of Violet.
At the end, she must have sort of known what they was, what they was up to and that, because the house was that small, you couldn't really talk in there and she couldn't hear.
People used to come out of prison, say, and knock on the door at Vallance Road. No one was ever turned away. No one. They always give them £20, which was a lot of money them days.
I've never seen anything like it, before or since. And it was Violet's pride and joy in her kingdom.
There's no question, Ronnie Kray didn't want to do anything other than be a gangster. He knew there was money in being a gangster, but the power was more important to him.
He wanted to be Legs Diamond, Al Capone. He wanted to be the Colonel, you know. He wanted to be feared by people. He loved being feared by people.
That was the kind of man that he was. When he was called the Colonel, he was the Colonel. Yeah, he had a little army of about 10 people. He could call on other people, but nothing to do with the firm.
They were fantasists, too. So they loved gangster movies. They loved the idea of being gangsters. But it was very interesting once. I remember asking Ron, what books have you ever read that really influenced you? Got a very funny answer. He said, 2 books, he said. One was Boys Town, because it's all about boys and I like boys. I said, what's the other one? He said, it's Anthony Nutting's book on General Gordon. He said, I love General Gordon, he's my hero. So I said, why? He said, because he was gay like me, and he faced overwhelming odds and died like a man.
Ronnie wanted Reggie to be like him. He wanted him to think like him, and Reggie wasn't that type of person. He wasn't. Reggie could have an argument with you, like everybody else, and he could hit you on the chin, walk away and forget completely about the argument. Ronnie couldn't do that. You know, Ronnie would, mentally, he would want to really hurt you, and hurt you bad.
And Ron was terrifying. He wanted to be. He really could look so evil. I mean, just hear Ron say, "You cunt," was in a way no one has ever said it in my life before.
You wouldn't insult Ronnie. You wouldn't say one word about Ronnie. Because if he heard of it, he would come looking for you, yeah.
He'd have a couple of midgets that come along, you know. Because he had a touch of circus thing, of the old East End circus stuff, you see. And these midgets would come and say, hello, they'd say, you know, we're friends of Reggie and Ronnie. If you don't tell the truth about us, we'll kill you. Bang, bang, you see. And the pub would roar with laughter at this.
Ronnie Kray was insane at certain times in his life. He suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, which isn't controlled by medication, is very dangerous.
He was partially sedated by an old East End doctor who I used to know, called Dr. Blasker, who used to prescribe pills to him, and they weren't the right pills, and Ron would come out of this state, but he wasn't properly sedated.
Blasker looked after him ever since he was about 17 onwards with pills, yeah, every single day. Well, he quietened him down, there's no two ways about that. I mean, from a raging lunatic, he would be sitting there like a zombie.
He wasn't the same person one day as he was the day before, you know? And the influence he had over Reg, in my opinion, was great, you know? And not only Reg, 90% of the other people in the East End that he worked with, you know?
Not so much Reggie, he wasn't too bad in that respect. It was Ronnie. Ronnie was looking for a kill.
Reggie was more businesslike, a bit more sensible, violent. Don't worry about that. He was a violent, vicious man, but it was more directed. There was more reason behind his violence. Where Ronnie done it for fun.
You had to be on your guard with Ronnie, like 99% of the time, you know? Because, as you say, he was never the same, you know, one day to the next.
Ronnie gave me a gun in a club in the West End. He wanted Connie to be shot. He said, don't shoot him to kill him, shoot him in the legs. Connie was in the toilet then. And I went in there and I said, Ronnie wants you shot. There's the gun. He got out of the toilet quick and that was it. I went back and I says, he's gone out. But there was many a time that Ronnie and Reggie spoke about knocking Connie off.
A week later, he'd change his mind, and Connie would be back on the firm. That is how the Colonel, Ronnie Kray, carried on. Just lunacy.
Ronnie was getting too violent, and all Ronnie wanted to do is hurt everybody, you know. Couldn't be happy to get up and have a night out or a day out without someone's got to get hurt somewhere through some ludicrous thing, you know.
I walked up to the bar and stood there, said hello to a few people who I recognised, bought a drink, and I noticed people drifting away from me, left and right, and I knew something was going on. I turned around and Reggie's trying to cop an automatic pistol, if you don't mind. The next thing I know, bang, I'm shot in the leg.
Times and time again when we went to clubs, if Ronnie seen a stranger and coming into his domain. He didn't like it. He would make a point of going over and sticking one right on him. And it didn't stop there. It was a kicking. We all stood by. We didn't grab Ronnie, because Ronnie would do you. Ronnie was a nutter.
I'd met a man named David Litvinoff who had upset them. He was a good informant of ours, but we didn't run his name in the paper. He told us a lot of what had gone on. Litvinoff had his mouth widened with a sword. I understand that Ronnie had held it in two hands and done that to his mouth while somebody else was holding him still, and widened his mouth. And it was a gesture that he'd made to him for something that David Litvinoff had said, and it was a case of, well, if you're going to use your mouth like that as a big mouth, I'll show you what a big mouth looks like, and cut his face nearly ear to ear. The extraordinary thing is that David Litvinoff was in hospital. 2 days later, Ronnie came and visited him, brought him flowers, and said, "Hope you're all right, hope you'll recover soon." That was the man.
Ronnie was in this club, and the guy came up to him and said, "Hello, Ron, how are you doing? You're putting a bit of weight on, aren't you?" And Ronnie's made some remark, then went out of the club, got in his car and was driven off, and he said, "Hang on, turn round." And they turned around and went back. It just shows how cold and calculated and then anticipatory it was about what he was going to do, because he went back into the club and he said, "Come here, you." Took him in the toilet and striped him down both cheeks. And they called this guy Tramlines. That was his name after that.
Some people nearly died. You know, we would have to wrap them up and something to sort of stem the blood, and then take them, dump them outside the London hospital or something. And that was regular thing.
Little Mickey Morris, they beat the life out of him, like the two of them, you know, for no reason whatsoever.
A young fighter, young ex-fighter, one of Ronnie's ex-boyfriends, again upset him for some reason, and he just took a Gurkha knife and just started hacking into him. Practically killed the kid. Face, head, hand, back, wherever it was possible to hit him. I think he wrapped him in a bed quilt of some sort, and again dumped him outside the hospital. Could have died from loss of blood if he hadn't been picked up straight away.
They were always fighting. Ronnie and Reggie was always fighting. If the crowd was round the pub like that and Ronnie and Reggie was there, if an argument was starting between Ronnie and Reggie, the crowd would gradually move right out of the way. They didn't want to get involved. If they got involved, the two of them would turn on them. That's how they were.
They might be raring about something on the morning, and they'd come in the snooker room. Then all of a sudden, one or the other would start lashing out at the other one. They'd be fighting, yeah.
When they were round, they were like two girls round, you know, like your sisters over boyfriends or makeup or something like that, their brooms. They just would scream and shout at each other.
One day Ronnie was having a go about Reggie's wife, and Nobby Clark, fool as he is, joined in. So now nothing was done straight away. They didn't work like that. It would register. They would save it up, use it when it was time.
Between 12 and 2 in the morning, Reggie was stinking drunk, and Ronnie kept going at him and saying, "Why don't you go over and get that little bastard? go on, get a gun and go and shoot him. So we went over there. Nobby's coming down the stairs. And I said, what are you doing this time? What do you want? What do you want? Can't you see me in the morning? He never dreamt what was going to happen next. Reggie put the gun up to shoot his head off. I got a hold of Nobby and I punched him. And he fell down. Reggie shot him, but it ended up going in his foot or his leg.
It's very difficult to apologise in some cases, but not in others. But I suppose if I've been a bit too violent over the years, I will make some apology about it. But there's little that I can do about it now. So again, it's no good reflecting back. It's pointless, negative.
Passing close by, please come and join us